In this video, I'm going to be talking to a professional Latvian teacher about where Latvian comes from, why is it different, and how to learn it. So if you're interested in more about learning about Latvian, stick around and watch the rest of this video. Welcome back, friends. Welcome back to the homestead. Like I just said, slightly different video, and I hope a format that I can do more of on a semi-regular basis, and that's interviewing Latvians about what they do, and hoping to learn from those interviews. Today's interview is with the Latvian teacher. I thought, as I've been here, we've been here 5 years. I've been doing videos for 4 or 5 years. 5 years almost to the date, actually. And it's about time we talked about Latvian, really, the language of Latvian. What is it? What's its roots? What's its differences? And I guess for a lot of people, how do you learn Latvian? What's the best way to learn Latvian? So in a moment, I'm going to join Dace on a Zoom call, and we're going to talk about Latvian. Dace has her own private Latvian learning business. She's a private teacher, but she's also developed this amazing course to learn Latvian, and I'm interested to learn more about that, and we'll talk about that. So let's dive into the call and join Dace, and then we'll talk through everything about Latvian. So Dace, thank you so much for giving up some time today to come and talk to us about what you do and Latvian, and more about later on about your course. So maybe I can sort of start really by asking you to tell us a bit about your journey, how you became a Latvian teacher.
So when I was studying to get my master's degree in legal translation, I was very sure that I won't be a teacher. It's like never say never. So I was very sure that I will be a translator because I always knew that I loved languages, and I was good at Latvian grammar, because in order to be a translator, you not only need to know the foreign language, but you also need to know your first language very well to be translating. But then I got my first job offer to teach French to beginners, which I accepted. And then during the process, I actually understood that I like teaching more than translating.
Okay, so how did you take that sort of newfound love of teaching and then turn that into learn Latvian with Dace?
So during my maternity leave, I had plenty of time to think what I want to do next in my life. Actually, this morning, I remembered that even some years before that, I had an idea that I wanted to have my own small business, but it was only like a dream, and I didn't know what I want to do, and I never thought that it will be teaching. I never thought that I will be teaching online. So when my maternity leave started, it was in 2020. Why it is important? Because in 2020 the COVID started, and then the distance learning became popular. So during my maternity leave, actually I made this Instagram account, Learn Latvian with Dace, just for fun. I didn't have any big plans for it. I didn't have big ambitions, not at all. I remember I posted 2 posts about Latvian grammar, and I was genuinely surprised that people started messaging me that they love it, and that there is finally an account for Latvian learners, and the explanations are in English. I made more and more posts, and then I thought, well, maybe I can do this. I can speak English. I'm good at Latvian grammar. Maybe it is a good combo that I can actually teach my first language. And then yeah, it became more serious, but I was afraid to make stories, to post reels.
Okay, well, of course, we know you're not afraid now because I know you've published lots of stuff on Instagram, and of course, we're talking now on this Zoom call. So, how did you change that fear and move on?
I had like a goal when my kids started kindergarten, because before that I was a stay-at-home mom. And when my son starts kindergarten, I will post my first reel on Instagram, and I will show my face. So that was like a big milestone for me. And then, like when I started making stories, making some content like reels and everything on Instagram, then it became more serious. And yeah, and basically that is how Learn Latvian with Dace was born.
Well, really interesting story there, and it's really interesting to hear how you've developed your business to what it is today. So, if we start to talk about a bit about Latvian, where does Latvian come from? Tell us a bit more about its roots.
So, a Latvian language belongs to the Baltic branch of Indo-European languages. And nowadays there are two alive Baltic languages, Latvian and Lithuanian. Latvian and Lithuanian, they are similar but also different. For example, when I go to Lithuania, I can pick up some words and I understand what they mean, but it's not that like I can have a conversation in Lithuania. Then speaking about the history, actually the first written records of Latvian language dates back to the 16th century. And before that, Latvian was mainly a spoken language. Of course, Latvian has been influenced by the neighboring languages because of the historical context and geography, and those languages are German, Russian, and Swedish. But a common misconception is that Latvian is very similar to Russian, which is not correct. First of all, the alphabet is completely different. Those who have studied Russian know that very well. Of course, there are some words that could be similar, but it's not that Latvian and Russian are like very similar languages, like Latvian and Lithuanian. Then also there are some, for example, for learners, if the learner's first language is Russian, then for him or her is a little bit more easier to understand the concept of Latvian grammar. Because in Russian language, they also change the verb forms and the noun forms, and the forms of the nouns. For English speakers, it is a completely new territory because in English, you don't change the endings of nouns and verbs. But that is like only one thing. So it's not like that Latvian and Russian are very similar. Okay. No.
Are there any other key differences between Latvian and English?
So from my experience, the most difficult thing about Latvian language is that in order to make a sentence, you need to think about what is the pronoun. Then the pronoun determines what is the verb form that you are going to use. Then the verb determines what will be the noun form that you are going to use after that. So there are a lot of things that you need to keep in mind in order to say like maybe a simple sentence in Latvian. But I always tell my students that if you have ever played a musical instrument, I remember I played the piano for a couple of years in my childhood. Like when you learn a musical instrument, when you it's like you think like where to put each finger, and then after time, after practice, it just happens naturally. You don't have to think like where to put each finger on the keyboard. It's the same with the language. And of course, at first, it could be overwhelming all the declensions, like noun forms, verb forms, a lot of things to keep in mind. But I can assure you it will get easier, because like at first students are like, I am never going to learn Latvian. That is not true. You will get there eventually.
So how does someone start to learn Latvian? Maybe you can give us a few tips.
So I think the first thing is you have to be consistent. It's not only with learning Latvian, but it's about everything. If a person wants to be fit, for example, he goes to the gym, and but in order to be in a good shape, you cannot go to the gym once a month, right? It's the same with learning a language. You should be consistent. It's better to do something than nothing. And another thing, you should be prepared for a marathon, not a sprint. If somebody tells you that you can learn Latvian, and if you're a beginner in 2 months, that's not possible. You cannot do that. It is not a sprint. You should be prepared for a marathon. Another thing that people are afraid of is making mistakes. You will make mistakes. I can assure you. Making mistakes is good, because when you are learning a language, it's just not possible that you will avoid making mistakes, and that is fine. And you should be making mistakes. If you're not sure whether that will be correct or that won't be correct, just do it. Go for it. The teacher will help you, and then you will learn something new. If you have studied Latvian before, then one thing that we practice with my students is writing a diary. So you write what you do every day. In this way, you will practice grammar. You can practice past, you can practice present, you can practice future. You will probably also learn some new vocabulary, and then you can show a diary to your teacher. If you have a Latvian partner, you can have a Latvian only day, 1 day a week. That will be very challenging, but that will be worth it, I promise. Even if you have a Latvian partner, you should still consider hiring a teacher, because a professional teacher will help you to understand grammar. A professional teacher knows like how to explain things, yeah, and you'll get the answers to your questions. So you should consider hiring a professional teacher as well. And the last thing is have fun. Again, if you have some prior knowledge and if you want to improve your Latvian, then if you like cars, watch videos about cars. If you like beauty, then watch videos or read something about beauty, and just have fun.
That's great. Some really good advice in there. What about online translation services? Just quickly, what are your sort of thoughts about those?
So if you want to translate simple words, then you can go to Latvian. Latvian is a very good website where you can access dictionaries, Latvian, English, English, Latvian, and also from some other languages. And there is also a very good tool where you can check the verb forms and the noun forms. And yeah. So Latvian, it is a very good website that you can use when you're learning a language.
And what's your experience of using Google Translate? Probably the most famous online translation service.
Well, my experience shows that Google Translate is good for translating maybe some very simple and common words. It is not good for translating sentences.
Yeah. I mean, there is the whole culture. There's a culture element of locals, whatever country you're in, they enjoy hearing their own language being spoken by someone who's trying to learn. And that's I think very much the case here in Latvia. Now where I have, I don't, as you know, I don't speak fluent Latvian, but I have a fairly good idea. I'm starting to get my head around when things are right and wrong. So I can look at a Google Translate and I can say, I know for a fact that will sound weird. If I send that message to someone, they'll think that I'm nuts or something, or rude, or, you get a hold of when something's not quite right or will sound not right. The nuances of the language, really.
Yeah, and about the sounding right or wrong, I say to my students, when you start getting the feeling that something sounds right or something sounds wrong, it actually comes from the fact that you have heard it enough times. And this is like this is where the feeling comes from. If you have heard this phrase enough times, then you start feeling, oh, well, this sounds right. Oh, it doesn't sound right at all. So that's why it is very important to immerse yourself into the language. Even if you're a beginner, try to listen or watch something as much as you can.
Okay, interesting. Can you suggest maybe some other resources that people could tap into in order to sort of further their journey in learning Latvian?
There are a bunch of free resources. There's a website valoda.lv, but I'm not sure like what is the full name of it. And there are like a bunch of resources that you can access totally for free. Also some games and exercises. But you can watch the news. You can watch maybe. By the way, I tell my students, if they're like Instagram is very popular nowadays, everybody knows that. And if there is, if you like, I don't know, let's say traveling, then maybe you can follow some influencers who talk about traveling. It's like try to find something that like you like, and then try to like surround yourself with Latvian. Watch something on Instagram, read something on Instagram if you have prior knowledge, or watch the news, maybe some YouTube channels in Latvian. Just try to like surround yourself with Latvian as much as you can. Maybe you can also listen to the radio as well. Listen to Latvian songs.
Oh, great. I'll make sure that the links to those resources are down in the description below. So Dace, you're obviously we know now you're a teacher, but you've also taken this kind of next step in developing your own course to enable people to learn Latvian. I know it's not just as simple as someone working through it on their own. Tell us a bit more about that course. And what people can expect if they were to sign up.
So I actually started making this course because there were a lot of students who wanted to have private classes, or they wanted to be to participate in the group lessons, but the time difference wasn't a real issue. Yeah. So, but still, there are some private students and some students who participate in group classes, and they wake up as early as 6 a.m. in the morning to learn Latvian, and I really admire each and one of them. So I started making the course, and I had the idea that I want to make a course which is as close to individual lessons as possible. And actually in this course, we work on all 4 skills: reading, listening, writing, and speaking. There are pre-recorded lessons where I explain grammar, vocabulary, everything. Then there are some exercises, and it actually took me a year to make this course because it took me a long time to program the feedback. Because not only in grammar exercises, but also in listening and reading exercises, after each question you get programmed feedback. You don't only get whether the answer is wrong or right, but you also get why it was wrong or why it was right. And for example, not only in grammar exercises, but also in reading and listening tasks. If there is a question which involves also a grammar question, then I explain also grammar and listening and writing tasks. And that's why it took me a year to make this course. And then there are some games, so you can play and make the process more enjoyable. But I think one of the unique things about the course is that we actually work on your speaking as well, but how it is possible if it is pre-recorded. So there are some exercises or questions, and students record their answers. Then I listen and I send my feedback. So this is how it works. And there is also a community where you can chat with other learners, and you can also ask me all the questions that you have. It's not like you are left alone. It's actually the same as I mentioned before. I wanted to make something that is as close to individual lessons as possible. But you save a lot of money doing the course than taking private lessons. But you get the same information, everything, and yeah. So I'm proud of the feedback because it took me a long time to program it, but I think it was worth it.
Well, that sounds a really great course, and probably the sort of thing that I should do as well, actually. So that's it. If someone wants to find out more about your teaching services, how to get lessons, and more, most important, look at that course. How do they find out more about that course? How does someone find you on the internet? You mentioned you've got an Instagram account, and I'm sure you've got a website. Where do people find more out about you?
So you can find me on Instagram and Facebook, Learn Latvian with Dace. There you can find also my website where you can see information about myself and also about the online course. So basically Instagram and Facebook, Learn Latvian with Dace.
Okay, great. And I'll make sure again that all those links are down in the description below for people to be able to find you. That's it. Thanks again so much for giving up your time this morning to talk about Latvian and learning Latvian and all things around that. It's been really great, and maybe in the future we could do some other videos as well. It'd be really great to get you back actually and do some more stuff if you'd be up for that. Okay, great. Well, I'll say bye for now. Thanks again, and that's it. I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Well, that was really interesting actually, and it made me think a bit about my learning Latvian journey as well. So like I say, I'll put all the links to all that stuff down in the description. I hope you found the video of interest and this kind of new format of doing interviews. If you've got anyone or anything you'd like me to organise an interview on, then let me know in the description below and I'll try and organise that. That would be really helpful actually. So anything you've got to say, anything you've got to add, like I say, down in the comments below. Really appreciate that. All the information you need is down in the description as well. Thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you in another video very soon. Bye.